Hello and welcome to today's episode of Rich, Simple Human. And today we're talking about the perfect day. Just imagine it, 24 hours, exactly as you'd like, making you feel successful, accomplished, calm, fulfilled, and relaxed and energized. When did you last have a day like that? Well, I'm really hoping you're going to say, every week, Lindsey, I take a Sabbath, and it's the perfect day. I feel connected, I feel refreshed, I feel energized, I feel serene and peaceful, and it resets me for what is ahead in the week to come. But hey, guess what? There are thousands of you listening to this podcast, and I also get to work with people one-to-one and in groups, and none of you are saying that. In fact, people are struggling to find a perfect day in their memory bank from the last week, the last month, the last 3 months, or even the last year. So what are we doing with those 24 hours we each get given? And here's the great news about equality in life. Every single human being on the face of the earth has 24 hours in every day. Now, we don't all get to choose how we spend them. But let me tell you, my listeners actually have a lot of agency around how they choose to spend their time. But sometimes they claim they don't. Well, I have to do X, Y, and Z, and I have to do A, B, and C, and I have to do 1, 2, and 3. Well, let me tell you, a lot of you don't. You're actually choosing to do that. And choice is a privilege. So, what is it you're choosing to do? By now, you probably know that I'm always yapping on about the pillars of energy. So let me just remind you that you have choices physically, mentally, and emotionally, spiritually, financially, and relationally. So how are you going to think about those pillars and assess your perfect day? If you are not already subscribed to my wonderful community through the website, if you do that now, you will receive a copy of my very newly hot, off-the-press Perfect Day Assessment. I'm making it sound really exciting because actually it is. It's based on years of work doing this kind of assessment, and it's rooted in the sophrology framework. So what happens if you go to www.richsimplehuman.com or lindseyfrances.co.uk and receive your copy of the Perfect Day Assessment? Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what you're going to do, and I hope it's going to really inspire you and make you feel excited and enthusiastic. You are going to score yourself from 0 to 5 across 8 sections with 4 different questions. You're going to be thinking about how you spend the 24 hours you have every day. And of course, we're going to use the other section of pillars or framework that I love to talk about: sleeping, breathing, moving, eating, relational decision-making, finances, and emotions. There's a lot in there, and you're going to be very pleasantly surprised about the amount of questions you dive into in quite a well-constructed way, if I do so myself. Of course, say so myself. Of course, I wrote it, so I'm going to say it's absolutely brilliant. But I have been testing it, and it works extremely well. Why is it so important to think about a perfect day? Some people will be listening saying, well, Lindsey, you've told me in our sessions over the months and months we've worked together that expectation minus reality equals disappointment. Well, yes, unrealistic expectations of other people is very disappointing because, hey, guess what? You can only change yourself. You can only manage your own emotions, reactions, and behaviour. You can only impact and affect yourself, really. You can only keep your side of the street clean. But when you change the way that you think, feel, and behave, it does change how people react to you. So there is the trick. Why is it important for you to contemplate your perfect day? Well, consciousness is about becoming aware of things you weren't aware of before. It's really that simple. So are you aware of where those 24 hours a day are going every day? I bet you're not. I think you're doing things that you don't realise you're doing. You're spending time doing things you don't want to do, and you're claiming you have no time. I have the privilege of working with people who never say, I can't afford it. They just say, I don't have time for it. These are very nuanced conversations. So the question is, if you can afford it, why haven't you got the time to do it? And by that, I mean doing the things that really bring you passion, the things that really lead you to your purpose, the things that really make your time here on earth feel worthwhile, your time here on earth building a legacy you want to leave behind. And of course, that means so many different things for different people. But that pointless feeling in life is a very dangerous place to be. It drives us into burnout, it drives addiction and depression, and it contributes to being generally very unhappy. Of course, the other problem we've got in the Western world is we've got so much more choice. This abundance of choice creates even more awareness of what we don't have. So we're out there looking at the man with the Ferrari thinking, well, I wish I had one of those, or whatever it is that you think you might be missing. Let me tell you right now, there's nothing wrong with you at all. You have everything you need. You just need to be aware of it. And I like to talk about self-development. It's actually being self-aware. We don't really need to develop much at all. We just need to be aware of who we are and what we've got, our God-given gifts and talents, if you like, our values and our capacities, and then steward them in the right way. So here are some questions that I've been asked about a perfect day assessment. Why is it so important to deepen your clarity around being intentional with your time? Well, if you're intentional with your time, you can be intentional with everything else. And attention, as we know in the attention economy, is our most valuable asset. In fact, that's all people want from us. Our attention, attention, attention. So this is a really, really good time to listen in because you're going to learn something. If you pay more attention to how you spend your 24 hours, you will actually deepen your clarity around your physical, mental, emotional, financial, and spiritual dimensions. Doesn't that sound appealing? Actually, I should really write a book on this. Anyway, I've got too many other things to do, but this is a really, really important part of the work that I do. I'm going to ask you a question now, and I'm going to try and answer it. If I looked at my physical energy over the next year, how would my life change if I consistently chose how I spend my time based on what strengthens my body rather than drains it? Ooh, this is a bit like you can't out-train a bad diet. Overtraining doesn't work. We see that on the Whoop and Aura rings. We see it in heart rate variability. We see it in recovery scores. We see it in the Garmin. If you are overtraining and under-recovering, you are not building anything. You are basically going nowhere. You are non-functional overreaching. If you look at your physical energy and you spend it accordingly, you train when you have energy to spare and you recover properly so you have more energy, you will become more effective and ultimately you will build more fitness and more muscle. That means you also need to be intentional about your sleeping and your eating and your movement at the same time. That sounds really complicated, doesn't it? But it also means you need to do that daily. You can't suddenly train 3 times a week and expect the rest of the week to build towards that. It just doesn't work. Next question. What mental patterns or clarity would I gain or lose depending on whether I intentionally protect my time or let it get fragmented and reactive? Ooh. Mental clarity and mental patterns. Every single client I work with tells me that they are not able to concentrate as much as they would like. They tell me that they are not able to choose their responses and they feel reactive in a lot of what's going on in their world. A lot of this is an energy problem. It's because we're tired and we're not actually working out what's going to happen before we get there. I was only saying to somebody yesterday how important visualization is. So, visualizing your 24 hours ahead allows you to mentally prepare, which means when it happens, you are ready. I'm not talking about being obsessive. I'm talking about having a rough sketch of how the day goes so you can be prepared and you're not burning energy being reactive. You already know that you're going to be doing certain things at certain times, seeing people in certain circumstances, being intentional about what you want from the relationship in a positive way. I always say this about marriage and relationships. It's far more productive to say, I would really love my relationship to be like this, rather than saying, I'm really sick of my relationship being like that. What you focus on, you move towards. If we focus on the positive, we will move towards it. If we focus on the negative, we will move towards that. What would you rather? You'd rather have a relationship with your spouse, child, colleague that was positive, that was fruitful, that felt really, really rewarding. What you don't want to do is go around harping on about the fact that you don't want a relationship that's broken. You don't want a relationship that's negative. You don't want a relationship that's confrontational. Because if you do that, even though you've put the word don't in front, you're still moving towards that. Focus on what you really, really want. I'm also going to say something here about closed loop thinking. It's really, really, really important that every day you make decisions and then you close out that decision making. Open loops, open decisions, unanswered questions burn energy. So when you can be intentional with your day, you can close your day down properly and then you can move on to the next one. What you don't want is an accumulation of unanswered decisions. It's a bit like unanswered emails. This is where AI is your friend. It can clear your inbox. You can use it to really assess what decisions could I have left open and where do I need to go back and close some loops. You're just leaking energy. It's a bit like leaving the tap dripping. If you haven't made a decision, then either switch it off and make the decision that I am not making a decision, full stop, and park it, or make a decision and move on. But this drip, drip, drip of mental energy is not going to help you at all. Next question. These are quite hard, actually. I should have prepped myself a bit better for these, but I hope that you're going along with this because, of course, they're brilliant. They're all rooted in the work that I do with the frameworks that I use and based on biometric data and optimal performance and recovery. So let's dive in. How does the way I currently spend my time support or undermine the emotional state I want to live in? I've sort of just answered this. If you are currently spending your time focusing on what you do want and moving towards it, then that is great. But if you are spending your time moaning about what you don't want, you're also moving towards that. Would you rather be looking in the rearview mirror and going to hit something in front of you, or focusing ahead? I would suggest you focus ahead. Now, let's talk about money. If I treated my time as directly convertible into financial outcomes, where am I investing it wisely and where am I unconsciously leaking value? Well, we've talked about leaking emotional energy or mental energy with open-looped decisions or decisions that you haven't made yet. It's very similar when you're not dealing with your finances. When we are stewarding our energy well, money is also an energy. We are stewarding our money well. When we are conscious of how we're spending our time, we're also far more conscious of where we're spending our money. When we're conscious of where we're spending our attention, we're also far more intentional. Do you understand what I mean? So when we're trying to pay attention to other people, we're also paying attention to so much more around us. So every time you are intentional about how you spend your time, you are also being more intentional about how you spend your money. There is this incredible human way that we park things and don't pay attention to it and ignore it. We don't steward it well because we're too busy doing other things. Let me give you an example. You wouldn't really think about running your business without looking at your spreadsheets or your bank accounts. So why are we running our bodies without looking at our energy? We're not assessing our energy. We're not asking ourselves, do I have the energy for this? Do I have the time or the capacity for this? We just say yes, 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 or no, 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 depending on our personality types. But let's really be granular about, do I have the energy and the effort that this is going to take for me to do it properly? Or am I confident in saying, actually, no, this is not for me right here, right now? How many of you actually do that? Not many, I don't think. So your time is directly convertible into financial energy. When we become aware of one, you become aware of another. This is also part of the discipline of neuroeconomic decision-making. It is so, so important. Final question. When I imagine my life from a spiritual perspective, am I spending my time in ways that align with who I truly want to be, or in ways that pull me away from that deeper sense of alignment and presence? If you are connected to a sense of a higher power, or would like to be, I do need to share with you that if you are moving too quickly, you won't be able to hear anything. So if you are rushing and busy, you won't be able to connect to anything because you simply don't have the ability to slow down and notice what's around you from a spiritual perspective, which is why people will always talk about meditation, prayer, and fasting. You will always see in any religious text time spent away from busyness. Busyness and chaos does not help us spiritually. It creates an overwhelming sense of busyness where we're just reacting to what's coming, and we're not proactively thinking, who was I created to be and what am I doing here on earth? So this is a super, super, super important question. If you would like to be more deeply spiritually connected, please be intentional with how you spend your 24 hours. Please be intentional with the fact that prayer and meditation is a daily practice, as is eating, sleeping, breathing, and moving. You wouldn't go a day without eating or sleeping. You wouldn't really go a day without moving, and you certainly should be moving properly every day with the amount of energy that you've got. But we also need to be doing the other parts. We need to be thinking about our relational energy, we need to be thinking about our financial energy, and we also need to be thinking about our spiritual energy. Where have we spent it today? Or have we not spent it at all because we're too busy spending it on other things? Nobody wakes up every morning thinking, I wish I had more money. But a lot of people wake up every morning thinking, I wish I had more connection, I wish I had more community, or I wish I had more energy. And that essentially is where we go when we begin to assess our 24 hours. So, would you like to take the test? Would you like to see where you score out of 160? And your total score will also lead you into 2 or 3 categories of diagnostic, so you can see exactly where you are, and then you can think about what you might want to do with it. Of course, if you do the assessment and you'd like some help, I'm here to work with one-to-one and groups to help you become more of a rich and simple human. Until next time, please go to the website. Please subscribe to the assessments that I am happily providing for free because I think they're wonderful, and enjoy. They are brilliant resources available to those that are signed up. Until next time, please think about what your perfect day would look like. Please think about how you currently spend your 24 hours and how you would like to spend them, and think about the decisions and the options you have, because choice really is a privilege. And it's such an important thing to do, to think about where we're making those choices and why we're pretending we don't have any choice at all. Until next time, stay well.